If a little green is good, more is even better. Now, back to Green is Good with John Shigarian and Mike Brady.
Welcome back to Green is Good, and we're so excited now to have Jennifer Jackson on, who's the community manager for Agrion. Welcome to Green is Good, Jennifer.
Thank you, John. Thanks for having me.
Now, Jennifer, you have an amazing background. You run sustainable operations at owners.com. You've sailed across the Pacific Ocean, and now you're in San Francisco as the community manager of Agrion. What a journey. Like, wow.
Thank you.
Now, I want our listeners to hear this. You literally sailed across the whole Pacific Ocean.
Well, technically not the entire ocean, but I did sail from Panama to Tahiti, which is one of the longest passages that anyone can do without having any place to stop.
Close enough.
Yes.
You win that one. Now, wait a second. How long was that journey?
It was 30 days at sea.
Oh.
We did a very, very brief stop in the Galapagos Islands for a day and a half to pick up some extra food and fuel. So it was 7 days to the Galapagos and then 23 to French Polynesia.
Amazing. That's
Wow.
just wonderful. And if you don't love the environment and the ocean and the world after that more than ever, I mean, I guess that's just sort of one of those life-changing experiences, huh?
That's right. It would be impossible not to care about this planet.
Hey, Mike, I was lucky enough to meet Jennifer at a recent Eco Tuesday event up in San Francisco, and she's just a wonderful young lady, and she introduced us to this Agrion. And Jennifer, I want you to share with our listeners, because I have to tell you the truth. Mike and I, we collect wonderful guests for this show and wonderful concepts that are ongoing, but we had never heard of Agrion, and what a diamond this organization is. And I'm so glad and honored that you're on the show today with us, because this is such an important story and such an important platform that needs to get told. So please share with our listeners, who is the Agrion Group and how did it start?
So Agrion is a global business network for professionals in the field of clean technology, sustainable development, and energy. And what we're trying to do is bring together entrepreneurs, investors, and corporations in these industries and give them a platform on which to connect, collaborate, and spur on business development.
God, and just a little bit for our listeners, who started the group and when did it start?
Agrion is a subsidiary of the Electronic Business Group, and they're headquartered over in Paris. We were created back in 2006, actually by a pretty impressive club of international entrepreneurs. There's the owner of the Gucci Group, CEO of Microsoft, Steve Ballmer, a gentleman named Wu Jianmin, who is the former ambassador of China to several countries, and then some other international leaders. And they got the Agrion community going in Paris, and we now have active bases also in Frankfurt, here in San Francisco, and New York. And our Beijing office is actually going to start hosting their events in this coming spring.
So now that you bring up events, how many events do you host a year in San Francisco? And talk a little bit about the events. What subjects do you cover? Who are the people out of our listeners out there that should be joining it? Who are the people that should be coming to your, to your great events? How does this whole work?
So in San Francisco alone, we have 2 to 3 in-person events per month. And then New York is also having approximately 2 to 3 a month. And then we also have online meetings, which I'll talk about in a second. But we organize and host events with a variety of different formats, and they're all broken down into one of 10 verticals. On the website, we call them boards. And those boards are smart grid, corporate sustainability, electric vehicles and transportation, solar energy, green building, green business in China. Then we have energy storage, green IT and energy, bioenergy, and then last, water management and technology. So a bunch of different fields, but they all fall into the categories of sustainable development, renewable energy, and clean tech. Then for our events, we have 2 types of actual in-person events. So one is a sit-down panel discussion or a forum that's got between 30 and 60 attendees, and then 4 to 5 panelists, plus a moderator. And then our other in-person event is a smaller sort of focus group workshop type thing that encourages interactive and collaboration between professionals.
Got it.
Then we have 2 types of online events. And the first is called a board meeting, where we have professionals join a web conference to hear expert panelists either give a presentation or engage in a discussion, and that's followed with Q&A. And then the other is a business review, where we get all of our board members from that particular topic to phone in and talk about the latest news from that industry, and then plan for upcoming meetings that they want to have, the things that they need to be talking about.
Wow.
And we have all those different formats so that everyone can benefit from our network, regardless of where they live or whether or not they're able to travel.
So if you're local, you get to come to the events if you want to come. If not, you could go online. Talk about a little bit, since you're a global company, what does the international collaboration look like if you're a member of your organization?
We strongly believe that we need all hands on deck to solve the problems that are facing us. So we really try to get our international communities together. For example, yesterday we had an international board meeting on smart grid security and the privacy of consumer data. We had 3 panelists. There were 2 from Germany. One guy was from Deutsche Telekom and the other from SAP. And then 1 from here in the U.S., in San Francisco, I believe, from Strategic Management Consulting. And then all of our participants phoned in from France, Germany, and the States. And they all got together. There were a couple of presentations on the smart grid security, and then they had a discussion following that.
I guess in this WikiLeaks era, that was a very timely discussion to be having.
Yes, timely indeed. And smart grid is a huge topic, so that's definitely one of our really popular areas.
If you just joined us now, we've got Jennifer Jackson on the line with us. She's the community manager of Agrion, and for those who want to learn more about Agrion, please go to www.agrionagrion.org. Big question now. How do people join your organization?
Yes. So we welcome everyone to visit our website, create a profile, and then they can manage their professional network on our website free of charge. Participation at our various events does require a paid corporate membership, but we offer a complimentary period of 2 months and participation in up to 2 in-person events for free. Then a company can choose from 3 different yearly subscription packages, and they can pick the best one that suits their needs. And the options range from the number of company representatives that can participate, and if they want to attend online meetings, or both our online and our in-person events.
Got it. And all that information is on the website?
Yes, it is.
Got it. So again, www.agrion.org. What is the most, when you talk to your members or you're talking to new potential members and you've got a short pitch time, what do you hear back from your members? What makes you the most unique organization? What makes Agrion unique?
We are really focused on building business partnerships, business relationships, and creating those networking opportunities for clean technology professionals. In particular, our boards allow people to focus in their specific online communities. So, someone from the solar industry, for instance, will join our solar board, and they can discuss with other solar professionals and potential customers and clients and what their ideas, discuss market trends, business strategies, news that comes up, company information, etc. And it provides a platform to really move business forward. That's the Agrion goal.
Move business forward.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. So give a little bit of a breath of a teaser to our listeners out there. Who has spoken at your events in the past? Because I'll tell you what, you have quite an impressive list of guests who have spoken. I've read the list, but I want you to share with our listeners now who has spoken at your events in the past.
That is one of Agrion's shining stars. We have wonderful, wonderful, high-caliber speakers that bring a huge amount of professionalism and insight to our discussions. The list is a little bit too long to list, but I have some of our notable panelists.
Yeah.
We've had Brian Payer, who is the Clean Tech Open co-founder.
Okay.
PJ Glossier, who's on the ENERNOC board of directors, and he's actually the former deputy secretary and chief operating officer of the U.S. Department of Energy.
Okay.
Amal Deshpande, who's a partner over at Kleiner & Perkins, Caulfield & Byers. We've had Hara's chief green officer, Michael Galopter. Let's see, Alex McIntosh, who is the recent corporate citizenship director over at Nestle Waters. Rick Hutchinson was on. He is the CEO of City Car Share. Really, really nice guy. Huh. And CEO of Sirius Materials, Kevin Surace, was on telling us all about how Sirius has been retrofitting the Empire State Building over in New York.
No kidding.
Yeah. And then Eric McAfee is the CEO of AE Biofuels, but you probably recognize the McAfee name. He's a prolific entrepreneur and philanthropist.
Got it.
Yeah, and the list goes on and on. We had Bloom Energy this week. Adobe Systems. We're having the managing partner of the Wesley Group come on in January. And I think, John, you'll be joining us, right,
yes,
for our recycling electronics program in January.
Thank you for the invitation, but I'm totally obviously outgunned, outclassed, and outnumbered with the people you just named, but I'm very appreciative of that opportunity. That is correct. So, I mean, this is the kind of people that you have at that speak to your audience. What does the new year look like? Are there any new things that you're thinking about, or is there any new avenues or new areas that you're moving into, or what's hot right now? In fact, like what's hot and what's not?
For the new year, we're really focusing our efforts on getting our boards going, our verticals. So we're sitting down as a team, and we've divided it up amongst all the community managers, and we're sitting down and figuring out what topics in each board we really need to get people talking about. In fact, I've been having meetings with our board members, asking them, what are the top 3 areas in your particular industry? What are the pain points? What are the concerns? So really for Agrion, we've been consolidating, organizing, and working on getting our program up for the new year.
Got it. And if you just joined us and you want we've got Jennifer Jackson, the community manager for Agrion on. You can look up the site if you're in front of your laptop or you have your iPad out or your desktop. It's www.agrion.org. Talk a little bit about your in-person forum events. How does that work? And, is there really networking going on there? Is it sharing knowledge base? What's your goals and how do they really work in the real world?
We call our events forums instead of conferences because we don't have sort of the typical multi-day conference that some of you might be used to. So we have our forums, and we keep these meetings pretty small and selective so that all of our attendees and panelists have a much more intimate experience than they might at a much larger event. We've got time for networking both before and after the panel discussion, and then time during the discussion for Q&A from the audience. The networking is superb, and it's one of my great joys to overhear this kind of thing. I had a water footprinting conference where one panelist had founded a water monitoring software company, and the other panelist was the head of the water management group at a very large technology company. And before the event, the two didn't know of each other, but at the end of the conference, the tech guy said to the software guy, "I think your product has a place in my organization." So that was great.
Wow. That's nice.
And at another event we had, a very small EV, electric vehicle battery company, became the first client of a multinational consulting firm as a result of meeting at one of our events.
That is so. Right now, how many members do you have approximately in the United States and then worldwide? I mean, is that something that you can share with our audience?
Like I mentioned, in the United States, we're still in our welcome period. We're really trying to get the word out about Agrion and its benefits to our members.
Okay.
And in doing that, we allow people to come to our events, sign up online, participate at our off-site meetings and online, so that everyone can understand just how beneficial Agrion is. Our offices in Paris and Frankfurt have a very large membership base, and we are ramping up to meet them soon.
Gotcha. So you mentioned Paris and you mentioned other parts of the world. Talk a little bit about, Thomas Friedman said the world is flat, and obviously you're in Europe, you're in Asia, and now the U.S. What does that bring to the people who join your organization? What benefit is that to them, the fact that you are really a worldwide community?
Well, we are facing worldwide problems and solutions that require worldwide answers. So we really want a Silicon Valley battery startup to be able to interact directly with a European electric vehicle manufacturer. We want a French water startup that's developing bioremediation technology for wastewater to be able to participate in an online conference with water treatment facilities here in the United States. We believe in accelerating the contacts between these groups of people that are working on the same issues. And we understand that small companies don't have the budgets to fly to Europe to conduct business development activities. So Agrion is trying to give them a working space for everyone to address the key issues that we're facing right now.
Jennifer, how many people approximately are in your San Francisco office? Is it a large group, a small group? How does that work?
We're a pretty small team. There are 4 full-time employees, and then we have a handful of part-time employees.
And what does community manager mean? It's a fascinating title, and you're doing unbelievably exciting work, obviously. What is it when they say you're going to be community manager? What did it say in the job description?
That's a good question. The community manager, each of us here, we take on a handful of our verticals and really dive deep into those topics. So the ones I'm responsible for are solar energy, green IT and energy, and corporate sustainability. So it's my job to really become a part of the industry, especially here in the Silicon Valley, get to know all of the major players and talk to them about the kinds of events, the kinds of organization that they want to see around the issues that are facing that particular industry. So I, on a day-to-day basis, work on drafting the content for our meetings and do a lot of outreach into the community to get them involved with Agrion.
So there are other community managers managing other verticals.
That's right. We've got 3 community managers here in the San Francisco office, and then our general manager that helps keep the wheels turning.
Which brings me to my next question then. How do you, it's an amazing breadth of subjects that you focus on. Mm-hmm. And now I understand that, you have different community managers covering it. How does the organization stay focused with so many great subjects that you're covering, or does that just make you stronger because you have such depth?
Right. We really rely on our members to dig deep into these subjects and to create value. Our boards allow us to be very focused, and they are led by some of the most influential people in the industry. For new people coming in, the attraction there is quite natural. These groups cater directly to these individuals, and it helps them to immediately get connected to the people that they need to.
Got it. Got it. So now let's go back to you again. Now you're the community manager here. Talk, a lot of the people that ask us all the time, our listeners email Mike or I, or we get phone calls or things of that such, letters. How do I become the next Jennifer Jackson? Obviously, Jennifer, you've had a fascinating career so far in sustainability over at owners.com, and then now moving over to the West Coast and now getting involved with this tremendous organization that, thanks to you, we're now hearing about, and our listeners are now hearing about. Talk a little bit about the journey. How people, other young people listening to this, want to understand how they could go into sustainability. Do you have any rules of the road?
I made the switch from the technical. I was a web developer, and I made the switch over to renewable energy simply because that's what I was the most passionate about. I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, if I'm going to keep going to a job every day, I want to actually care about it. And so it wasn't easy, and it's a tough economy, and so I think that if I had to give advice to anyone, I would say figure out what you're the most passionate about and go for it. In the fields of clean technology and renewable energy and everything, it's a perfect storm that's happening right now, to borrow from one of our panelists who said this week. We've got a combination of just about every company that's out there realizes that this is the way that we need to go. Budgets are opening up finally, and also the technology is coming to the platform and prices are coming down. So the opportunities are out there, just go for it. Find out, the particular areas that are hottest and the ones that you're the most passionate about. Cross-reference those two and just dive in.
Interesting. And then did you choose the subjects that you get to cover as community manager, or they're just assigned to you?
We had a little bit of a rock, paper, scissors session going on here.
Scientifically.
There were a couple that both of us wanted, but we sorted it out, and there's some overlap there, and we talked about which strengths we had, and so I'm thrilled with my verticals, and all of the other managers are too.
Got it. And how is it now reaching out in the community? Like, how does that, I know you reached out to our community to put together our recycling conference, but when you're reaching out in your local community up in Silicon Valley for thought leaders and investors and others, how are you received when you're out there as the new kid on the block?
It's tough being the new kid on the block. I find that if I can sort of crack into the organization, they immediately see the value, and they're impressed by the caliber of our content and our participants. But certainly getting a foot in the door is challenging. No one yet is familiar with the Agrion name, and there's a lot of noise out there. There are a lot of events. There are a lot of other things going on a daily basis. So we're really trying to position ourselves as being very high caliber, very professional, where, like I said, business development actually does happen. It's not about swapping business cards and then tossing them in the trash at our events. So, we are just working on getting ourselves in the door, getting our name out there.
Do the original founders still help push people towards you and towards the organization?
They do, and we're hoping to leverage our European members as well, so getting companies that have a global presence and they're a member over in Paris, to have them talk to their United States components and spread the word about our events as well.
So without giving away any secrets or anything, we're down to the last 30 seconds or so. What's your goal for 2011? For how many people do you want to get to join San Francisco and your office up there?
Okay. Well, I'd like to say the sky's the limit.
Good.
But let's see. We are shooting for about 80 members at this point for next year.
Good for you, and you should get it, and it's a great organization. For our listeners out there, again, please go and check them out, and Jennifer's great organization out at www.agrion.org, agrion.org. Jennifer Jackson, you are amazing. You are really inspirational and truly living proof that green is good.
Thank you, John.
This program will be available for downloading in a couple of days from our station's website, keyword podcast. Thanks for listening, and join us again next week at the same time for another edition of Green is Good.